One, two, three.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops.
Yes, so many cops are on the tick. What do you expect when they use tear gas and tanks? Whether in a car or on a horse, cops don't mind using excessive force.
Bad cops, bad cops.
What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops.
What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops.
What you gonna do?
Bad cops, bad cops.
This is filmed in front of a live studio audience. So we have it's a bittersweet sympathy that's live. So like this guy Joe was locked up for almost 68 years. He went to jail at the age of 15. He is the youngest juvenile offender to be locked up for that long. It makes no sense. It took this long, but he's out now, and now he's going all over the world. I saw like a German website interviewing him. He's going all out there now, speaking like his truth. So like, hopefully we won't hear the last of him for hopefully the rest of his days are pretty special. So I want to share this quick article real quick just to show it's a breakdown of it. It's a wild situation. It was pretty much like almost like kids being near a very violent street fight that happened way back in the day. And way back in the day where cops can do even more shit to black people. And so pretty much he went to prison at the age of 15, and he walked a free man this month. But you have to realize like the Supreme Court finally ruled in 2012 that sentencing kids under 18 without parole, such as murder, was unconstitutional. That's how long it took. So before 2012, if you were 17, 16, you can just go right with the grown-ups in the shower. So pretty much.
Do I have to go straight to the shower though? Can I walk somewhere else first?
Unfortunately, I have a feeling that if you're 14, 15, those men are gonna just
lead you right to the shower.
I don't really want to make. But sexual.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, yo, why are we laughing? But
it's not a joke. But it's just like the fact that like it's like the thing is, it is a joke because this is how sick the society is. They made like prison rape a joke. When it's not a joke, it's horrible. But that's because the fact that you're putting children within like criminals and stuff like that. What's going to happen? They become even hardened criminals. But unfortunately, fortunately for this man, he came out.
It's like prison university. They go
exactly.
to learn
That's
how
what
to
I'm
be
trying
better
to say
criminals.
From a joke. We're not making jokes of rape. We're saying that when you go to prison, you're going to make more criminals. So you're going to make more hardened, sociopathic people, who distrust society and distrust themselves. So that's what's going to happen. So you're going to make violent people. But fortunately, this man at the age of 83 years old, he's optimistic about the future. And I want to get to the video to talk about his case. I think we need to hear the case rather than me just read it. I think it's better to do that. So
the nation's oldest and longest serving juvenile offender is free tonight after being released from prison last week. Joe Ligon was 15 years old in 1953 when he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder in Philadelphia. He was sentenced to life without parole. In the end, he served 68 years behind bars. To put that in perspective, when he went in, Harry Truman was president and the polio vaccine was under development. I spoke with Ligon's attorney, Bradley Bridge, this week about his client, his case, and what it says about the criminal justice system.
What does it say?
Bradley Bridge, thank you so much for your time tonight. Tell us, first of all, for folks who are not familiar with Joe's story, this case and what happened.
Joe Ligon was convicted of 2 murders in 1953. He was found guilty and given a mandatory life without parole sentence. That sentence was ultimately ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court in 2016. We went before a judge in 2017, and the judge changed his sentence from a mandatory life without parole to a sentence of 35 years to life. 35 years means he'd be eligible for parole immediately. He chose not to seek parole because it was his vision that he had served long enough. At that point, he was like 65 years in prison, and he refused to seek parole. as he had refused to seek clemency back in the 70s. Ultimately, I vindicated what it was that he wanted, which was to get out without being on parole by challenging the mandatory parole term that the judge placed on him at sentencing.
Joe was 15 years old when this robbery and assault happened and 2 people were killed. What was his role in all of that, and what did he share with you over the years?
Well, I'm not going to tell you what he shared with me over the years, but I will tell you what I read from the trial transcript.
I'm
from
still an attorney,
1953.
asshole.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna tell you what the blood
What it shows is a group of kids. Joe did not know the kids particularly well. They were from a different school and not necessarily from his neighborhood. He knew only some of them by nicknames. But the group of kids, 5 or so in number, came down to the center city of Philadelphia, pooled their nickels and dimes together, bought a bottle of wine, drank it, got drunk, had no more money, wanted more wine, had several knives, and a group of kids went through the city and stabbed about 8 people, 2 people of which died. Joe admitted at the time that he'd stabbed some people, as one of them had testified against him at the hearing in 1953 in June. That person obviously did not die. Joe was responsible for what he had done, but he's not responsible for what the other people had done. So in actuality, he's guilty of an assault and robbery, but nothing more. But was found guilty of a mandatory life without parole sentence because he was found guilty of 2 murders.
You have mentioned 68 years of incarceration for your client. What does that say about our justice system and our criminal justice system and our prisons in the United States?
Well, it says different things about the criminal justice system, and it says something different about the prison. So let me answer each of them. What it says about the criminal justice system is that we over-incarcerate people. We keep them in prison for far, far too long. They certainly, the people that are found guilty of crimes, need to pay a penalty for what it was that they did, but they shouldn't overpay for what it was that they did. That does 2 things that are harmful. First, it costs extra money for society. Keeping somebody like Joe Ligon in prison each year probably costs over $100,000
He's kind of swole, though, for his age.
He probably spent multiple millions of dollars in his incarceration.
Prison like
at some point beyond which, since he's paid the price that would be appropriate for the crimes, continuing incarceration just wastes money, and it wastes lives. Joe Ligon is getting out now. He's 83 years old. He has no chance and will have no opportunity to recidivate. He's not going to commit any more crimes. That would have been true at 73, would have been true at 63. So we spent additional decades keeping him in prison, and that costs all of us money, and it wastes people's lives when they get out there. They're just going to be old, and that's really just not helpful. That's the impact on the criminal justice system.
Have you or Joe heard from the victims or the loved ones or extended family of the victims of that crime back all those years ago?
We have not. When we do the
juvenile life resentencing
hearings, the prosecutor's office goes out of their way to try to track down and find all the people that are related to the people that were killed when the crime occurred. In this particular case, the Commonwealth was unable to do so because the crime arose in 1953.
Bradley Bridge, thank you for your time.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. Good day.
Good day to you. Take care.
So literally, they can't even find the people, the relatives who are grieving or are not even alive anymore, and they kept him.
It's not from a lack of trying.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, like the annals of history forgot about this particular crime or series of crimes.
He was just left there.
We're going to try to dredge it back up to try to convince the judge to just keep another warm body in the prison, and it's ugly business to me. I know that the prosecutor has a job to do, but why not just seek out justice again? You've already heard my criticism early in the clip. Stop calling it the justice system, because it's not about justice. It's what's in a legal book and what can you use in legal precedents to make your argument the most persuasive? That's not justice.
Yeah. And mind you, like, he was offered clemency by the Pennsylvania governor in the 1970s, but he denied it because it would have been parole. Like, why do I need parole? Like, it happened in 1953. Like, I was 15 years old. Like, your chemistry in your brain is not even like settled yet. At that point.
I get the fact that, he was running around the street stabbing people. Like,
yeah,
we
Those
can't
kids, those
overlook
kind of
that.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't
Prison,
overlook that.
But prison doesn't help those kids. Prison just makes those kids even
And it
more.
doesn't help society.
Yeah, it makes those kids even more like, go out there and beat up their wives and beat up their kids and beat up everyone else in the community.
I told you about that lockup segment with the dude that was in prison, but he was like a former prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he would not give out these sentences because as prosecutors, they don't really understand what those numbers on the page means when they seek out these sentencing, and then they look at sentencing guidelines. Like they say, oh, this crime is, a misdemeanor up to 1 year. This crime is a felony, up to 25 years or what have you. But they don't have a good understanding of what 25 years really is. So when this guy was doing time, he was like, yo, I was giving out 10 and 20-year sentences like fucking candy. It's like, had I known, not now that I have experience as a convict, if I would have known exactly what the time actually is other than number of years on a piece of paper signed by a judge, I would not have, I would not have sought any of those sentences.
And because of these prosecutors from like 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, the decisions they make, Supreme Court now, after making that decision in 2012 or 2016, 2016, ever since then, they've been reviewing thousands of cases of kids who still locked. They're not kids anymore. They're like adults, grown-ass men and women.
Yeah, but they're still kids, though, because their psychological and emotional growth is stunted the day they walk into the courtroom. Oh, and then the day they walk into the prison, it's at that point that's just who they are. That's just what it is.
The case is long done, and now the Supreme Court has to follow up with these people years later to review these cases that shouldn't have been got this far in the first place. A lot of when we see, especially Joe, as we see in this situation, 68 years. That's I guess that's example of bad cops, because a lot of times prosecutors can be the worst cop ever.
Yeah, they think they're cops too.
So
they're on team police.
Yeah,
why do you think they keep bringing these bullshit cases to grand juries when it comes to police misconduct? Because they view themselves as on the same team as a police, or at the very least, they look to the police to guard them, because, I mean, who wants to come at those people more than the people that they put in jail? So they look to the police to protect them. So, obviously they feel like they're on team police. They're supposed to be impartial and seeking the truth and justice and blah, blah, blah. But again,
justice system.
It's a legal system. It's not justice. It's legal. What can you make the legal book say to support your argument? That's all it's about.
So that's Black Power Magic Hour. That's our Bad Cop segment. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, on YouTube, on act.tv, over 47,000 subscribers. And Dr. Regenius, he has on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. He's streaming all the time. So that's the Bad Cop segment, all different kind of cops, where they're beat cops or cops in uniforms and law degrees. There's cops all around. Bad cops.